Apple. When they announced, their after hours, people were not impressed at all. It was down 5%, and it was primarily attached to disappointing iPhone sales. Pretty much everything else was up. Mac, iPad, wearables, and services, but iPhone was down. And I think that is a absolute reflection on the sophistication of investors who know that whether it's iPads, wearables, accessories, and services are pretty much all tied to iPhone. And you may say, well, the iPad's a stretch, but the reason that people know how to use an iPad so well is because they know how to use their iPhone. And if you look at the value proposition that says, if you know how to use an iPhone, you can use an iPad. So, now, I received a lot of hate tweets out there when I took this take. Yeah, I did expect it to be down because they were late with their iPhone 12. So to me, that was natural. But it was down a lot further than I think people expected. Will they bounce back? Yes, they will. The other thing that I think investors were disappointed in is that Apple got bumped down another peg on the market share ladder. Apple is now down to number 4, and Samsung is to number 1. Now, can they get back to that number 3 spot that Xiaomi took? It's questionable. I think Xiaomi is actually having a lot of success because they're taking a lot of Huawei business as it tanks. But all in all, a really interesting earnings for Apple. One final comment, Daniel. I'm wondering now, the services revenue has been super impressive. What happens if the regulators get in with Google, right? So Google search bounty that I think was supposedly $12 billion. Don't cite me on that number. Look that up. What happens to that number to Apple if the regulators get in and scrutinize that? Apple is, somebody leaked that Apple is working on their own search, right? What does that do to their revenue? And the 30% store toll, which they derive $15 billion. I wrote an article on that on Forbes. What happens if regulators start scrutinizing that? So just some things on my mind.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. I mean, look, Apple, the street has been harder than normal for the last few quarters on Apple. It's certainly not getting that same inflated. I mean, Apple had, 2 events this quarter. Neither of them got quite the same pop in return that the company had seen in the past several years. The new iPhone 12, 5G is finally here. I think it was sort of a laugh from the market. Like you realize 5G's been here like a year, 2 years ago, but definitely a year ago. I mean, we were using 5G phones at the very end of 2019. We already had 5G phones. So that was just completely misleading. The other things, Pat, that kind of caught my attention too was services growth. Yeah, double digit, but 14.55, 16%. I mean, all this energy that's gone into the music and the TV for 16%. That's a good number if you're Dell, 16% growth. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm just saying that's like if you're an OEM and you grow your server sales by 16%, that's good. When you're launching massive categories of service into this ecosystem that is always exponential, 16%, like I would think that some of these services should be growing 50 to 100 because they're not that big yet. I mean, not in the fact that you have this captive audience that you're tapped into. So the other thing too is Mac has been deflated for so long. So a 28% growth over what's been relatively a slow growing market for both Mac and iPad. Both of those have been pretty repressed. You look, I mean, the iPhone was somewhere between 3 and 4 times bigger than either of those categories for the company. And all the energy has gone into the iPhone. The iPhone is the center of the ecosystem. And Pat, I did see that same Canalys data point. Now fourth, and I think I said fifth could be very much in its crosshairs as another Chinese. What was the next one? Is it Xiaomi? Is Xiaomi the one that's just beneath them now, or is
Vivo?
Yeah, there you go. So the company, based on growth or stagnation, could end up finding itself as the 5th phone on a worldwide basis. Now, note, not US. In the US, Apple almost has half the market. So in the US, Apple has been extremely successful. But on a global scale, the closed Apple ecosystem has not been received the same way. And with our continued stress relations in China, and also the premium price tiers of Apple and the premium costs to developers, there's a lot of potential that the Android ecosystem could continue to really gain momentum. So I'd say Apple's in a cautious spot right now, Pat. Company needs to assert itself and grow, needs to focus on regaining the trust of its developer ecosystem. And I really think it needs to nail its Mac with these new ARM-based chips. I've been starting to spout what I said earlier about Surface, that I could see Surface surpassing Mac as the ultra premium device. Its growth is showing that potential, but Mac's next generation, I actually, Pat, one last thing. I think the Mac jump could have been people trying to get last dibs into the Intel versions before the new ones come out. A lot of people might have bought a Mac right before because they're nervous about this new chip. They're nervous, will the new chip provide the same quality, or would you rather, because a Mac's like a 3-year lock-in. You buy it, you keep it for like 3 years. People don't want to buy the new one. They're worried, is Apple going to get it right?
Yeah, it's funny. I vacillated between people trying to buy the Intel-based Macs before the ARM ones came in. And back to school. I mean, kids love, kids in college seem to really like MacBooks. A lot of kids have them. I don't want to call them a toy because they're not, but I'm really looking forward to. I think the latest rumor is November 10th that Apple's going to bring out the new Macs. It was the 17th. It looks like that got pulled in. So I think that's going to be super interesting.